Okay, I think we've got it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the heads up there. Um, so I thought I'd start with a little bit about Portland Parks and Recreation in general. We manage all of the city's parks, natural areas, gardens, trails, and recreational facilities. And we do provide a variety of recreation services as well. And we're the caretaker actually for over 15% of the land in Portland. And that's a total of over 11,000 acres. And it includes 154 developed parks, 11 pools, 6 golf courses, 26 splash pads, and a lot more. And there's a few different divisions within Parks and Recreation. There's Recreation. That group manages our recreation services and strategies. We have our aquatics groups, community centers, um, all of those groups. And then there's the lands division, and they provide all of our land management activities for both parks and natural areas and associated programs like environmental education and horticultural services. And urban forestry, who manages our urban forest, and including tree inspections, permitting, science, and outreach. And then our division, which is the assets and development division, and we all collaborate together. Um, the assets and development division, which is where this role lies within, is responsible for the management of our parks assets, planning for the park system, the design and construction of new parks, renovation of existing parks, and maintenance of professional maintenance of parks all across the Portland. And I'm actually going to kind of share my screen with a little organizational chart just so that it's a little more visual what I'm talking about here. Uh, let's see if I can get that right. Is that, make it clearer? Is that visible to everybody? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is just a kind of a high level overview of the assets and development division. Um, and the different groups within assets and development. So starting on the left here, we have our professional maintenance team, or PRMS for short. It's a group of about 70 folks, and they provide all of our professional maintenance. They have a MEP shop, a carpentry shop, and an amenities shop that do all of our long-term maintenance of our facilities. And then we have our asset management team. That's a group of about 10 people who take care of managing our assets, recording the condition of assets, documenting what those conditions are, and making recommendations for long-term maintenance strategies and how best to take care of our backlog of maintenance issues and prioritize that work. We have our planning group. That's a group of about team with a group of about 5 people who do the long range planning. They consult with both internal and external stakeholders. So they work with other bureaus to help develop long-term plans for parks and collaborate with other bureaus like Portland Bureau of Transportation, the Bureau of Environmental Services, to make long-term plans for the city and how parks can be incorporated into that. And then we have 3 capital teams in assets and development, and the capital construction and engineering team is one of those 3 capital teams. The other 2, we have a capital renovation team. That's a group of about 7 people, and they provide our renovation projects. So they take on major renovation projects like Mount Scott Community Center, or there was a brand new maintenance facility that was built out at our Mount Tabor Yard maintenance facility, and they managed and delivered that project. And then we have our capital growth team. That team's primarily responsible for development of all of our new parks. That includes parks like Park Lane Park, Mill Park, which just opened. And so those are generally brand new facilities. And then we have the capital engineering and construction team. That's where this particular role lies. And we are responsible for a variety of different kind of pieces there in the capital project side. We provide support on the construction project management side to both the capital renovation team and the capital growth team. And so that involves providing construction management on those bigger complex projects, managing the contractor. We also step in and help on smaller projects like roof replacements, building system upgrades. We lead those projects. Our capital project managers lead those projects. And then we also have an environmental risk specialist and a mechanical engineer that we're currently recruiting for. This role in particular is a capital project manager on the construction and engineering team. And I think I kind of touched on it, but there's a variety of different roles that this role will play. One of the major pieces of this role is taking on construction management. Larger complex projects will have both a project manager and a construction manager on those projects. And the capital project managers on our team generally serve as those construction managers, and they generally take over a project during construction. They lead the collaboration with the contractor. This includes responding to RFIs, reviewing pay apps and change orders, observing and inspecting contractor work during construction, really specifically to ensure conformance with the construction documents and parks best practices and mitigate parks risk. It also involves earlier in the design process, consulting with what I'll call the design project manager, consulting with the design project manager to review documents for constructability, help with the bidding process, and provide general design review. We try to bring our capital construction project managers into the process as early as possible so that they can help provide guidance and insight into construction best practices. And then we are multifaceted. We do get to step into projects and lead them from design through construction. And so that might include hiring a consultant, coordinating those consultants, helping facilitate permitting, consulting with both internal and external stakeholders. We do a lot of work coordinating comments between the different divisions. So making sure that lands, urban forestry, and recreations comments and best practices are incorporated into our park designs. One of the other major projects that our team is working on right now is actually scoping for a potential upcoming bond. And that involves assessing the existing condition at over 17 different projects, working with consultants to assess the existing condition of those facilities, make some recommendations about what the facilities' needs are and what the recommended repairs are for those facilities, with the intent of developing really detailed cost estimates. Just kind of to give you an idea of some of the projects our team is working on, we're working on the construction management of Park Lane Park. So Dave on our team has been managing that project. It's a CMGC, Construction Manager General Management project. And so really collaborating closely with the contractor on that project. And that project's just about open. He's also been working on Mill Park, which just opened. And so on all of those projects, he was the primary contact for the contractor and helped them facilitate the construction of the project, coordinating with different bureaus, coordinating with our internal and external stakeholders and our professional maintenance group to make sure that everybody's best practices were incorporated into the project. We're also our team's working on Pier Pool and making some really needed repairs there. That pool actually was closed last summer due to a leak, and so we're working on repairing the shell and pieces of the plumbing system to make sure that the pool is open for the upcoming summer season. We are one of a really big project on parks in the upcoming parks projects is the North Portland Aquatic Center. And so right now that project is under design and has a construction project manager from our team already assigned to that. And so that even though we're just really early in the process, that construction project manager is helping with developing the RFP and the RFQ for selecting a general contractor for the project and is collaborating with the entire capital team to make sure that the project is reviewed for constructability and making sure that they're really aware of what that project is so that they can successfully provide construction management when that project goes under construction. We're also working on some small projects that we're leading on our own. Projects like a maintenance facility roof replacement. Our capital project managers are seeing that project through all phases from design through permitting, a trailer, procuring a new trailer to help supplement some of our workspace planning. And then I think, like I mentioned, one of the biggest ones is the upcoming bond scoping project, working on assessing all of those facilities for their needed repairs and how best to tackle that with a potential upcoming bond. And I think that covers kind of the overall structure and some examples of what the projects that we're working on include. And really the role involves those two facets of capital project management from design through construction on generally smaller projects. Generally, our team doesn't take on the major brand new multi-million-dollar parks or the design of brand new facilities, but we do take on smaller repair maintenance projects and then the capital construction management as well. And I feel like I said a lot really quickly. So I am actually going to pause for a minute and see if there's any questions.
Paula, is there any way you can share kind of the kind of capital plan figures and I guess annual trends kind of does it go up and down over the years or what that looks like?
I don't have that prepared. I can follow up if you want to follow up with Troy Lind that question, or if you I'll certainly come prepared if you are selected for the first round of interviews to that information.
I understand. Sorry to catch you off guard. I'm just curious
No,
of the quantity of projects, etc.
Yeah, it's a great question. I just don't have the numbers, and I want to be accurate. I don't have the numbers offhand.
What is our budgetary range that we're responsible for?
So the projects that the capital project manager takes on varies. As a construction manager, these projects are into the multi-millions. North Portland Aquatic Center, which our team is taking on from a construction management standpoint, is I don't have the exact figures because we're not quite there yet, but $30+ million for that project.
Okay.
And then it goes right down to the maintenance facility roof that I gave as an example. That's a $500,000 project.
Okay.
And the trailer replacement is a $350,000 project. So there's quite a bit of variety. we find on our bigger projects, we generally have a bigger team for support. So we're stepping in on a construction management side. We have another project manager who's helps. So you're not alone responsible for that
Floundering.
budget. Exactly. But on our smaller projects, there tends to be a bit more independence there just because they're smaller and more manageable.
Now, I've also had contracts. Do we have a legal department that handles our contracts?
We have a procurement and a legal department. And so working with procurement is one of the responsibilities of this role, and navigating that process. We do have a pretty robust set of procurement rules and timelines, and they are changing. The new form of government those rules are a little bit different now than they were a couple of months ago. But and then within parks, currently we have a kind of dedicated procurement team that helps work as a liaison between parks parks people who are procuring services, goods, contractors, and central procurement. And so they are a great reference point for asking those day-to-day questions and helping us navigate that process.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes, Corey. I can't hear you. But you don't look like you're muted, so.
How about now?
Yes,
Okay,
I can hear you.
Sorry, I was connected to the screen instead. You've said a couple times sort of construction manager versus project manager, and that this role in this department is sort of a little mixed versus some of the other departments. Can you sort of explain the day-to-day difference in your mind of those two roles?
Yeah, thank you. So generally a project manager, and how we generally look at it, sees the project through all phases. And so they would start a project, the planning team hands off a project and they hand it to one of our capital project managers, and they see that project from all the way from kind of pre-design through the end of construction and closeout. And they're kind of equally involved along that entire phase, although sometimes their involvement drops off a little bit during construction if a construction project manager is assigned. And kind of vice versa, the construction project manager isn't particularly involved during pre-design, early design, but they ramp up their involvement during construction. I think one of the easiest ways I've thought about it is that the capital project manager generally manages the design consultants and a lot of our internal and external stakeholders. And then the construction project manager is primarily responsible for managing the contractor. And so in this role, it's a little bit of both. So there is the ability to step into construction projects and manage those as a construction project manager, but also, again, usually smaller projects kind of lead those projects all the way through all the phases.
Cool.
So you're saying that the construction management comes from the monitoring and construction phase on to closure, whereas the project managers are the pre-construction, correct?
Exactly. And not all of our projects get construction project managers. The smaller, again, some of the capital project managers on other teams will see those projects all the way through. We really try to work to identify the best fit for each project. And so we have landscape architects on the capital teams. And so often they're a really great fit for projects that are focused on the design and landscape of new parks. We have architects on the team. And so, looking at people's skills and finding good fits for our projects means that there's a little bit of bleeding between our different teams. So even though we have kind of 3 groups, we work really hard to make sure that people's skills are aligned with the projects that make the most sense.
So I think you said, if I caught, the project managers are primarily pre-construction.
Yes.
Okay. And then like about what point would the capital project managers take over? Or are they a little bit separate? Or if you could help clarify.
Yeah. So the construction project manager often takes over. It depends on the project type. So if we have like a design bid build project where those phases are all separate, the construction project manager generally takes over kind of at the kickoff of construction. If it's a different type of delivery project, like a CMGC project, it's a little bit more of a, I guess, a gray area where the capital project manager can lead the design group, but the construction project manager maintains is the primary point of contact for the contractor. So really, it depends a little bit on the project, but thinking of the construction project manager as the primary point of contact for the contractor, and that contract is generally the easiest way to describe that line. And it try to make sure that the construction project manager is involved at least as a consultant in a consultant capacity early in that process, so that they're not trying to learn the ins and outs of a 30 million plus project when construction kicks off.
Understood. Makes sense. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So how much, quick question for you. I don't know, somebody else was in line to speak, but from my background in the private sector here in Portland, I've been the project manager, capital manager, guy in the dirt, digging the holes and all of the above. How much autonomy, I guess, does this role have in terms of, making decisions? If a budget is blowing up, for example, what is the process, in order to rein in costs? Are there like layers of communication with like higher ups? Or if we do need an increase in budget, for example, because some unforeseen costs with whatever soil conditions, XYZ, how do you accommodate, how does this role function, I guess, within like the larger, chain of command and something like that?
Great question. So our capital project, this is a capital project manager 3 position. That's the kind of most advanced position of our capital project managers until you get into managing a team. So it's one of our most kind of senior independent contributor role. So there is quite a bit of autonomy in the role itself. To make decisions. So as the construction project manager, you have the capacity to make a lot of those day-to-day decisions, you'd be reviewing RFIs and making decisions about those responses independently, reviewing change orders, making responses to those decisions independently, providing you of course have the budget to make those decisions within the project. And then if you are in a situation, like you said, soil conditions unknown, extra cost, I'm here to help with those conversations. It does end up generally being a conversation with the division manager and our financial. We have kind of a financial analyst that helps monitor and manage our budget, and we have an entire financial group that helps us manage our budgets. And so when we need to find extra money, we have to go outside of the project and need their help identifying and prioritizing what those are, but I'm here to help navigate those conversations and coordinate them and schedule them and figure out, make some suggestions about how to tackle those challenges.
Makes sense. By the way, you guys did a great job with the Mill City Park over there on 122nd. My father actually owned, we just sold it, but the apartment complex right next to it. So as you guys were breaking ground, we were selling the property in the meantime. So I was wondering what was going to actually happen there, but it's looking really good. And actually, the complex itself has direct access into the park. So the guy who we sold the property to is actually pretty excited about what you guys are doing there. So hopefully you came in, on budget and on time with that one, but good job.
Yeah. Thank you. That was all Dave. Well, Dave on our team was the construction project manager for that one. And he had support from the project manager for that project as well, but
Very nice.
thank you. Jenny?
Yeah. Hi, Hala. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Great. So in the listing, it looks like there's backgrounds of engineering, landscape architecture, planning, looking at your construction management team, and kind of wanting a balanced team. Is there a background that you're particularly looking for in this position? I know you can't specifically say, I want a planner, or I want a landscape architect, but I know you want a balanced team, and if there's any sort of priorities that we should emphasize in our application, I would love to hear that. Thanks.
Yeah. No, thank you. Not a particular, I would say, focus of career background. I think we're really looking for the skills to fill in our needs, and so it's a role that requires the ability to shift priorities and shift knowledge. I know that the kind of the dual focus of being a construction project manager on some projects and then kind of managing the whole process on others is a unique set of skills that require, the ability to shift focus and knowledge kind of both of the construction side, but also the entire capital project side. And so I think that's, if we're looking for one thing, it's kind of that ability to shift abilities and focuses between those different roles, essentially.
Great. Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. Chris.
Yes. Last year there was a recruitment for a project manager, and I think that recruited into a project engineer role. Is this related to those recruitments, or is this a new opening?
This is we're filling a role from someone retiring. So it's not I've been in my role since June of last year, so I can't really speak to maybe that other recruitment. But it's an existing role.
Okay, thank
that
you.
we're just looking to refill.
I have another question. So you're talking a little bit about some of the projects, both upcoming and ongoing. For this position, what would be one of the first projects that that the capital project manager would take on?
Yeah. So I know I spoke a lot about construction management, but the first one that this role is really going to get a jump into is actually the bond scoping project. So that's going to be, we're kind of kicking off phase one of that. There's 2 phases. We have a lot of projects to scope. And so phase one, we're kicking off right now. We have bringing consultants on board to start assessments of, let's see, 7 outdoor pools and Multnomah Arts Center, Matt Dishman Community Center, and Southwest Community Center. So we're kicking off a major scoping effort for those properties right now. And so managing the consultants, their assessment of those properties, and the delivery of their cost estimates into working on kind of a uniform reporting mechanism and reporting format for all of that information is one of the first big projects that this role gets to take on. And there will be a phase 2 that as soon as we wrap up phase 1, we jump right into phase 2 that has a whole variety of different projects, some of our indoor pools, our splash pads, some of our partner facilities. So facilities like Pittock Mansion and Pioneer Courthouse Square and the Chinese Gardens are owned by Portland Parks and Rec, but are leased out to different groups to kind of manage the day-to-day there. So there's a whole phase 2 set of projects after the phase 1. So that's one of the big ones that this role will get to jump right into.
Very exciting. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I had a couple questions on the sort of application and didn't know if we were ready to dive into that or if you had other things to present, Hala.
Let's see if there's any other questions related to the role, and then I'll let Troylyn go over the application process, and then if there's still questions,
Sounds great.
that would be perfect. Okay. Any other questions on the role itself?
Yeah, I have one, and it may seem really silly. What do you love about working there?
I really have enjoyed all of the people, and just everyone is so passionate about providing spaces to our communities and improving our park system and maintaining our park system, and just kind of collaborating with everybody and getting a whole lot of different perspectives on how best to do that. My background, I came from a pretty small architecture firm, and so I'm really loving just the groups that we work with and how excited everybody is for the work that we do, and the ability to really work on providing spaces for our community and kind of seeing that all of the different phases of that process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And to kind of build on, just to kind of build on that, how would you describe the culture of the team and the organization that you work with?
Yeah. I just think there's a lot of we have a lot of folks who have been in the Capitol teams for quite a while, so there's a lot of really great institutional knowledge, and so being able to learn from those folks, and just the passion that they have for the role is really great. I think that, and there is a lot of, at the same time, there's also a lot of opportunity for autonomy, and being able to lead your own projects and make those projects into what you feel they need to be. I'm not sure that speaks. It's a little. It's hard for me to. It's always a hard question to describe culture, but I think there's a lot of excitement and passion for parks, and that's really demonstrated through the work that's done.
That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Alex?
Hi, thank you so much for what you've told us so far. It sounds like the first job would be this large bond project, but I'm curious, outside of that one specifically, how many projects do managers have at a given time? I assume that changes based on scale, but I think that question, and how do you make sure that you're kind of right sizing the workload for all of your managers?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It totally matters on the scale of the projects. And so, for folks who have one, for example, we have one project, the North Portland Aquatic Center, that has 3 people assigned to it. And a couple of those people, it's the majority of their time. There might be a couple of other projects that they're tracking, but that's the vast majority of at least two people's time. And so that's, I would say, one example of, you have half of a project assigned to you. And then we have other folks who have, I would have to look at our work plan, but 7, 8, maybe even more assigned to them on the work plan. They might not all be active at the exact same time. And so we have at least bi-weekly, but more frequent check-ins between myself and each of my team members to kind of track what that capacity looks like, to make sure that we're balancing all of those project needs and, prioritizing if project A is going crazy, prioritizing the right projects at the right time. And so we really use those bi-weekly check-ins to make sure that the capacity is where it should be and that no one's overwhelmed or kind of feeling any kind of burnout. And we have a whole lot of folks. So so if we need to kind of reprioritize or reassign projects to make sure that the workload is kind of evenly balanced across the capital teams, we do that as well. I think we're really prioritize making sure that priorities are clear and that people know what the most important projects on their work plan are. And even if it means putting something on hold for a little while.
Also, to kind of build on that, how does the organization prioritize or assign priority to various projects?
It's an effort that is led by our planning. So for new projects and major renovation, that effort is led by our planning team, and they look at, we have a level of service that they've created to identify where different needs are in the park. And so, which areas may be missing a neighborhood park, which parts of the city might be missing a basketball court. And so they use that level of service to prioritize what we would call a growth project, which might be a brand new facility or the addition of, say, a basketball court to an existing park. That would be growth. And so they help prioritize those projects by looking at a variety of factors, that level of service. We have an equity tool that we use to help prioritize that work. And then our asset management group helps us prioritize our major maintenance. We have quite a significant major maintenance backlog. That's part of the purpose of the bond scoping project, is to help get better costs to that backlog. And so they help prioritize which major maintenance work, things like re-roofing, systems upgrades, is most critical to make sure that our facilities stay open and operable.
To build on Dane's question, how much of our work would reflect sustainability or be involved in the green streets projects that are going on all over the city, et cetera? How much of our work would go into that?
In this particular position, I don't think it's a huge focus of this particular role. We have, the city initiatives that we certainly follow. And so making sure that those are implemented is part of the work. And, for example, the North Portland Aquatic Center is targeting some pretty ambitious sustainability goals. So as a as a whole, Parks is doing quite a bit of sustainability, but in this particular role, it would really be project dependent on, if there are opportunities, yes. But a lot of the work, I would say day to day, has less opportunities.
One last question. Sorry, I don't want to dwell on this too much if you want to move on, Hala, but for example, let's say there's a concrete related thing that needs to get done, or a framing project, roofing, whatever. How much would I be able to, in a role like this, be able to tap some of my contacts that I know in that particular trade? Or do you guys have like an approved vendor list or contractors that you rely and depend on? Or can you bring outside work, and maybe people who have never had the opportunity to bid like a public job or like this before?
We have a pretty thorough procurement process, and so we can't, and there's limits for very small dollar value scopes of work. We can reach out directly to folks, but it's a pretty low threshold, and it depends on what type of work it is, but it's something like $5,000. It's really low.
Mm-hmm.
And anything beyond that has to go through that public procurement process to make sure that we are fairly vetting all of the different options.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can go through that process, and it just depends on who responds to that. And you can work to make sure that the folks that you want to work with at least respond to that
Mm-hmm.
process, but we have to follow that procurement process. And so sometimes that can be time consuming. We
Mm-hmm.
do have on-call contracts that are already set up, and we can use those without going through kind of that rigorous procurement contract. So it really depends on, I think, the project and the situation. We are really dedicated to working with minority businesses, COBIT certified businesses. And so and outreaching to those groups that maybe haven't had an opportunity to work on a public project before, and making sure that they have the tools and the resources to respond to that procurement process.
Makes sense.
Well, I think we have about 14 minutes left. If I would love to cover a few tips and tricks on how to apply before the end of this meeting. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can someone tell me if they can see the City of Portland job opportunities page?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, that's perfect. So the first of all, thank you so much for being here. Once again, my name is Troy Lynn, and I am the recruiter. I am here to help all of our applicants. So the first part of that is I just want to give you some good old-fashioned tips. The first thing I want to show you, though, is there's a button at the very, very top of our job opportunities page, and it says show more. I really encourage you to click on that button. Under there, you will see that we have how to apply tutorial videos, how to apply classes. Right now, I'm going to talk to you for 10 minutes. We do classes and videos. Our classes are an hour and a half long. So I'm only giving you a snippet of what we can teach you. We also have our City of Portland core values, the HR recruitment and hiring policies, a little bit about total compensation and benefits, our veterans preference. If you're a veteran, thank you for your service. Please go ahead and click here to learn more information about that. And then also our ADA pregnancy and religious accommodations. If there is any need for an accommodation, you can get some information there as well. But then I want to talk about this particular recruitment. I'm not going to go through the entire job announcement. I know that you can do some of that, but I do want to highlight some really important things. One of the things I want to highlight is this job closes on February 10th at 11:59 p.m. we do not control the server clock for the government jobs page. So sometimes our computers are a little bit different than that server clock. So if perchance you are a night owl and you are the person who's going to hit submit at 11:59 p.m. and you hit submit and it does not go through, want you to immediately email me. If I get your email by 12:30 in the morning, I'll be sound asleep. But the next morning, I'm going to reach out to you and I'm going to make sure that your application can be submitted. We don't like anybody to panic when that happens. So don't worry, just reach out to me. Right in the middle of the job announcement, right under where you clicked into this meeting, is my name and my email address. Be sure and write that down because once again, if you need it, I'm here to help. The next thing I want to talk about is our minimum qualifications and the fact that the way that the city reviews applications is we're going to use your resume and your answers to the supplemental questions. Those supplemental questions come straight from the minimum qualifications. So the first thing we're going to ask you is, do you have this qualification? As you can assume, if it is a minimum qualification, you tell us no, you will not move forward in the process. But if you answer yes, then we're going to ask you to tell us a little bit about that. And that's what I want to talk about today. This is my tips and tricks. Copy and paste those 6 minimum qualifications onto a Word document of your choice. Write a paragraph or 2 about how you meet that minimum qualification. You can include examples of things that you've done in the past, all of that stuff. Once you've finished writing your paragraph, the next thing I encourage you to do is go back through the job announcement, maybe review this recording. Hopefully it's going to be available. There's been some technical issues, but hopefully you'll be able to review it again. But go back up here under the what you'll get to do. Paula and I worked together to create this job posting. Once you've done all of your answers to the questions, go back in and look at some of these what you'll get to do. If you've done a few of those things, I would encourage you to go ahead and add that to your supplemental questions. Find a spot that would fit in. Now, there are a couple of words that you'll notice that are in bold. We use the word experience and we use the word ability. Now, experience means to the city, what that means is that you've done this thing. You have, in this case, you have done capital project management, successful contracting and coordinating capital projects while meeting critical schedules, both independently and within teams, settings from scoping through construction. Sorry, that's a mouthful. So that means you've done those things. Ability is what we consider a transferable skill. So you have done something in your past that gives you the ability to do this thing if you are hired for the job. Now, the other thing about these responses is you're going to want to make sure that you have answered each question completely. So in the one that I just read, I noticed it said experience in capital project management. So you're going to want to include that. You're going to want to include a little bit about successfully contracting and coordinating capital projects while meeting critical schedules, both independently and within a team. From scoping through construction. So make sure that you include all of that information. And that way you're not, what I always say is please don't leave anything on the table, like you wish that you had answered. A lot of people ask me, what's the perfect length of a response? Well, there is no perfect length, but I can tell you that it's people that are reviewing your applications. And it's going to be used twice. It's going to be used the first time to determine if you meet minimum qualifications, and then it's going to be used the second time to determine who they bring in for interviews. So really take the opportunity to sell yourself. But one thing that I know a lot of people are, AI is out there, so we're just going to talk about it. Once you've finished all your paragraphs, I would encourage you to either find a person you can get critical feedback from, a person that knows you. That is the best way to do it because people that actually know and care about you are going to remember things maybe that you've worked on in the past that you've left out. But if you don't have that, what you may use AI as a tool what I would encourage you to do is copy the question and your response into the AI of your choice and say, please edit for conciseness, or please check my punctuation. I always have to do that because I leave all my commas out. But whatever it is that you might need to put some polish on there, what I would discourage you from doing, and this is really important, is there are a lot of things out there that there is AI that will actually apply for jobs for you now. We know about this. The problem is that that's not a genuine response from you. And so we're going to take your resume and we're going to take your responses to the supplemental questions, and they have to coordinate. So if you use AI to actually do the entire application process, there is a good chance that you're not going to move forward in the process, or you might not get, even if you're minimally qualified, it shows you're minimally qualified, you might not move on to the interview. And here's the reason why. Believe it or not, sometimes in some recruitments, we get the exact same response from two different candidates. That's kind of a tell that maybe you didn't do the work. So use it as a tool, please. Please don't use it as a cheat. I feel a little, even though I'm an HR person, I feel like a little bit of a teacher at this moment and say, please don't cheat. All of that said, there's a couple of little things down here that says, although not required, please let us know if you meet the following preferred qualification. Make sure that's on your resume if you do meet the preferred qualification. Lastly, the last thing I do want to talk about, we only have a few minutes left, is a little bit about the schedule that's on here. It tells you a little bit about like when we're going to be reviewing for minimum qualifications, when we're going to establish the eligible list. If you get an email from me and it says, this recruitment has been extended, please don't worry. That does not mean that there was nobody that was qualified and we're extending it to get more qualified applicants. What we're doing is there's a variety of reasons. It could be it is snow and ice and there is no ability for anybody to review the information right now. We would rather leave it open for a longer amount of time than close it down and not be able to get back to you. So if you get that email from me, please don't worry. Paula could get sick. There's a variety of reasons that things get extended. It is never a big deal. It just means that we need that extra week for some reason. 4 minutes left. Does anybody have any quick questions about how to apply? Because I would be really happy to. I'm going to stop sharing.
Do we have the ability to have like ergonomic keyboards, ergonomic chairs, standing desks, etc., when we're in the office?
I can answer that one. We do have standing desks. This job is reports to the Portland building, so standing desks, and then there is an opportunity to request an ergonomic chair or any other ergonomic tools that you might need to do the job.
Troy, you sort of answered this, but you said, real people are reading this application. Can we assume that like they'll read it in order? Like if we used an example from a specific project, should we spell it out again, like this exact project at this time? Or can lower down supplemental questions refer to projects in other of the supplemental questions, if that makes sense? Or should each one stand alone?
My best advice is for each one to stand alone.
Great.
That's my best advice. I see it a lot of times, like somebody will say, as described in the previous response, that's fine, because I am reading through, if it's me, if it were me, and it's not necessarily BHR that's reviewing this application. Sometimes they're subject matter experts.
Mhm.
But I would definitely refer to, what I'll do is I'll have your resume open. I'm going to have your response open. I'm going to check both sides. And then if I need to scroll up, I can totally do that.
Okay, great. Thanks.
If there aren't any other questions, then I want to once again thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. The people, our candidates matter a great deal to us. So thank you. From now on, I'm going to ask Hala to take a back seat. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please reach out to me. If I can't answer them myself, I will contact Hala. That's for equity reasons. We want to give everybody equal access. And then the other thing I want to say is all of us, all the recruiters here at the city are here to help you. So if you have any questions, even if you're applying to a different position and you just happen to, you're like, oh, I have Troy Lynn's email address, please reach out. We're here for you. And it looks like there might be, oh, no, just a thank you. So thank you so much. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. It was a
Thanks
pleasure
all.
meeting.
Thank you for
Thank you.
hosting.
Be in touch. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Troy Lynn.